guys, and welcome to the first guest episode of the Napkin podcast. If you haven't checked out the trailer yet, be sure to head back into your podcast player after this episode. Listen to that so you'll understand more of the heartbeat of the show. But I am so excited for this episode because it is with my girl, Olivia Adriance. Olivia and I met here in Austin, Texas in about the December timeframe because it was at a Christmas girls dinner, which you will hear us talk about at the top of the episode. Olivia and I became quick friends, and I was so impressed how she ordered off of the menu for the entire group of 15 women. I had been to this particular restaurant in Austin before, and I don't know if it was really that memorable. It was good, but when you go with Olivia somewhere to go eat and she's ordering, it's going to be great. Olivia is a recipe and content creator based out of here in Austin, Texas, so she knows what she's doing, working her way through a menu. She really has a heart for healthy living. All of her recipes are gluten-free, refined sugar-free, and dairy-free, and she's a girl after my own heart because she and I share the same philosophy on cooking, and that is the less dishes, the better. So even though her dishes are healthy, most of them are a one-pot cooking meal because who has time to do the dishes? You spend all this time cooking and then you eat it in 5 minutes. Who wants to spend time cleaning up? So Olivia is one of the girls. She totally gets it. And because her recipes are so good and so healthy, she has now accumulated a following over 1.3 million followers on Instagram of people that just look forward to her weekly releases of her new recipes that, again, she creates on her own. I told her I can barely follow a recipe, nonetheless come up with one. So it has been such a joy to learn a little bit more about Olivia's story over the last 6 months of knowing her. We recorded this episode in Olivia's home here in Austin, Texas. So if you are watching on YouTube, you'll get a peek behind the scenes of where she creates all of these amazing and healthy recipes. In our chat today, we really talk about Olivia's transition from being an accountant at PricewaterhouseCoopers, she is a smart gal, to a stint in real estate flipping with her husband, to what we know her as now, which is a recipe and content creator. What's cool about this episode is Olivia and I both share how we stepped into entrepreneurship, but how our paths to get there looked very different. Olivia coined the term our different quit styles, how we both quit our 9-to-5s in a very different way and stepped into entrepreneurship. And I love how Olivia was clear from the outset what her goal was, but I was still really vague in what I wanted to do next. And so a part of my journey that I don't think a lot of people know, and quite frankly, I don't talk about a lot, is when I was still living in Virginia. It was before I had moved to Nashville. I dabbled in a couple different things before starting my agency because I just wasn't necessarily clear on what I wanted to do. So I was at that point, I quit my 9-to-5 job for the first time, enrolled back into school to go pursue a graduate degree. And I ended up just dabbling in a couple entrepreneurial journeys at the time. I did end up picking back up a 9-to-5 job during all of this time, but I started teaching yoga in businesses after work. I was teaching yoga before work in an actual studio. I was tutoring in math to high schoolers. And so what I didn't realize at the time was these were all small stepping stones into entrepreneurship that would later turn into a bigger dream. But it was during that time I was getting clients and I was setting prices, whether it was for yoga or tutoring. And these were all very translatable skill sets into what I was going to do later. And I want to share that in case there is anybody listening today that might relate. I didn't exactly know what I wanted to do next. I just knew I didn't want to keep doing what I was currently doing. So if that is you, my encouragement truly is to keep taking action, keep taking small steps, because I do think all of those will lead to clarity for you, because action leads to clarity. And you'll hear, like with Olivia's story, it was all of those reps and at-bats that allowed her to find her originality, but it takes action to get there. And on top of her journey, her entrepreneurial journey, of course, we are talking about Olivia's gorgeous hair, the 3 things she always keeps in her purse, and the key and the secret behind her very memorable matcha, which I've never had a matcha before, but you'll hear in the episode that Olivia promises to give me a taste test. So I will circle back around with you guys on that. And just a few quick housekeeping items before we step into the actual episode. Number 1, if you're watching on YouTube, you will see about 60% of the way through that the quality of the video probably decreases. This is because my camera died. Apparently it overheated because, again, Austin, Texas is hot. So we changed to my iPhone for one segment and then to Chelsea's iPhone for the second segment. And Chelsea is Olivia's assistant. So if you're watching and you see a little bit of a change, that's going to be why. Speaking of Chelsea, we do pinch hit the conversation a bit to her off mic for a little bit. So if you hear us talking about a Chelsea and you kind of hear some background noise, that is Olivia's assistant. And then lastly, we do mention something called the Enneagram in the episode. And in case you're not familiar with that, which it's all over Nashville, I don't know if it's quite as prominent here in Austin, but essentially it's just a personality test. There are 9 different types associated with 9 different numbers. So you'll hear us talk about that. So I just wanted to provide some context before we get into the conversation, so we're not all in the dark, we're all on the same page. All right, guys, that is what I have for you. Now, here is my conversation with Olivia Adriance. Recipe creator, content creator, and probably the best hair in Austin, Texas.
Oh my gosh.
Olivia, welcome to the podcast today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I've been so excited about this.
Olivia and I became friends last December at a girls' Christmas party. It was all women. And I don't know if you and I ever actually talked about this, but when I walked in, so I didn't know anybody. I knew one girl because we had had coffee once, but it was a group of 15 women I had never met.
That's intimidating.
Yeah, and for some reason, I wore a black sequin blazer as a dress.
You looked so good.
A cowboy hat and cowboy boots. So I wasn't feeling myself until I got to the elevator to go to the second floor where the restaurant was. And I was like, I think I'm now really insecure. Why did I wear the most obnoxious outfit? Because I was afraid if these girls aren't nice, I'm giving them so much ammo to talk about.
Oh, no.
And lo and behold, you guys were the sweetest group of women. And it's just a testament of if you show up as yourself, you will find the right people. You guys were so complimentary. There was a couple times I think I even said, like, I feel insecure wearing this outfit to a new girls' dinner. And you guys were so nice.
Well, you definitely looked the best. Like, Elizabeth always comes serving looks. And that night was no exception. And I remember seeing you walk in and I was like, she understood the assignment. Like, she looks so good. It was so holiday, but also like true to your aesthetic, which is like Western chic.
Yes.
So it was perfect.
Thank you. We did make Olivia order all the food that night. So if you guys ever go out with Olivia, make sure she orders the food because she knows exactly what to get. Because I remember I've been to that restaurant before and I was kind of just like, meh. You order, it's a completely different experience. So always go out to dinner with Olivia. But I can't remember. Do you know how we got out of the girls group chat and just started texting one-on-one?
It might have even started that night. I think we exchanged numbers that night.
It was just meant to be. It was friends at first sight.
It was. And then I tried to set her up with one of my best guy friends. Literally that night. I'm like,
I forgot that was where it started.
I need this girl in my life forever. So I'm going to try to finagle this into a relationship.
Because it was actually another date that got me invited to the girls' dinner in the first place.
That's right.
Yes. If we have time, we'll talk about that later. But girls never turn down a date because you never know what's going to be on the other side of it. It could be one of your closest friends after you move to a new city. So recipe creator, you created one yesterday that really caught my eye because you don't do a lot of cocktails.
No.
Tell me about the one that you started on yesterday.
So I did a little watermelon, cucumber, muddled mint gin cocktail.
I mean, can you?
It was so good. We made a fresh watermelon juice, and fresh watermelon juice just like by itself, I could have stopped the video there. Exceptional. It's like I literally can't keep it in the fridge because Kyle will just down it and I'll be like, you have to, I'm using that for a cocktail. Like, don't drink that, please. So yeah, we did like a little fresh cocktail with some nugget ice. I feel like the nugget ice it tips it.
Is that Sonic ice?
You know, everyone says it's Sonic ice. I just use like a little ice mold that I got off Amazon. But I think maybe did Sonic start the nugget ice movement?
In my Southern Virginia world, yes.
Okay.
Like we always go to Sonic even just to get ice. Like I think you can buy it by the bag there.
Oh, wow.
So we always call it Sonic ice.
The West Coast is coming out of me and I did not even know this.
Okay. Have you ever eaten at Sonic? I feel like this would not be a normal go-to for you.
I have seen the commercials and it looks delicious.
They do have like a happy hour on their slushies from like 3 to 4.
Oh, fun.
Not that I've ever indulged in that. But yeah, that one caught my eye because you do a lot of healthy recipes. So cocktails I feel like are not as common, but I loved like the watermelon, fresh kind of summer vibe. And obviously if Kyle, your husband, gives it the approval, then we're good to go.
Then you know.
But something I found really interesting about your story over the last 6 months that I've learned is there have been different phases of your journey that have led you here today. And I think that's really interesting that it's not linear because I don't know if you get this question a lot. I know I certainly do of how'd you quit your 9 to 5 or how did you start something new? How'd you figure out your calling or your purpose in life? And I think when the words calling and purpose kind of come into play, it feels like you made this very intentional plan and then just made the steps retroactively and then ended up at your end goal, where it feels much more like this a lot of times. And so, I mean, if I were to guess, I would think that you didn't know 4 years ago that in 2024, you'd have 1.5 million followers and be a full-time recipe creator. There was a lot of steps to kind of get there along the way. And so while there's not necessarily a blueprint for people to follow, I think there's breadcrumbs of how you've made decisions to kind of help people along if they want to start something on their own too. So I'd love to kind of step back to 2020.
Okay.
Tell me about 2020, Olivia. Where was she working? What was she doing? Was she married? So tell me about kind of like where you were at in 2020.
Ooh, I love this. 2020 was such a catalyst year in a lot of ways. So it's a perfect year to start. I was working at PricewaterhouseCoopers in San Diego.
She's a smart girly.
Accounting major into food content. That was a very meandering journey. So let's get into it. So yeah, working at PricewaterhouseCoopers, really like climbing up the corporate ladder, finding a lot of, I guess my identity in being what like society would consider successful. So I had a good, successful job and I was living in San Diego. I was enjoying my life, but I knew that I was not in a career that was giving me a lot of purpose. And it was not my calling, not my gifting either. I was trying to kind of square peg, round hole myself into this job that looked really good from the outside. So a lot was shaken up in 2020. And Kyle and I, we were engaged at the time. We were getting married that summer.
How long were you guys engaged for?
It ended up being 7 months. And I say it ended up being because we had to cancel our wedding and then we just got married in a backyard.
I think I forgot this part of your story. Wait, 2020 was wild for you
guys. It
guys.
was wild. There was so much, like we just flipped the table upside down. We changed everything.
Yeah.
Moved states, quit our jobs, got married, started on these new like creative careers. We also started flipping houses. We got into real estate. It was just, what can we change about our lives? Let's do it.
You guys just ripped the Band-Aid off.
Ripped it off.
Okay. So when you went to go quit your job, tell me what was kind of your mindset at that point in time going into it? And then was there kind of a deadline or something that you wanted to hit before you quit your job? So when I quit mine, I was doing kind of my side hustle and I was like, I want to make as much of my main 9-to-5 income as I do with my side hustle. Then I'll quit my 9-to-5. Was yours more of a feeling oriented thought or was it more strategic decision making?
You would think that having had the background that I did, it would have been more strategic and a little bit more financially motivated. Like, okay, once I hit this, then I'll do that. That is not how it went in 2020 for me.
I love this for you because this does not align necessarily with your typical personality traits. But I do think that sometimes where you start to find yourself is when you kind of step outside of the norms of your decision making.
And I was listening to this podcast at the time, the Bigger Pockets podcast. It's a real estate podcast, but they bring on a lot of guests in other fields who are entrepreneurs. And one of the guests, I don't remember who it was talking about how sometimes you just have to quit and pursue your side hustle so that your back is against the wall and you don't have a fallback plan. And that, for whatever reason, in that season of life really resonated with me.
Yeah.
I was like feeling like taking risks, like changing things. So I quit PwC in December of 2020 and started making content in January of 21. So I wasn't even like making reels yet or doing content full time when I quit PwC.
Because did you quit with the intention of you and Kyle were going to start flipping and doing kind of the Airbnb rentals?
I figured that was going to be more of our full-time job was going to be doing real estate, but that half-time, part-time, I was going to be creating content. And that was really how it ended up, especially like between real estate projects. You have a lot of free time. It's a very project-based industry. So we would get done flipping a house and you're on this crazy high and it's so exciting and you brought this project to life, but then you're like, oh, okay, well, what do I do now? And that was when I started creating a lot of content. So January, putting out reels, they're not getting any traction. It was, I think, what a lot of people would call it cringe. And it was a time when it's like,
we've all felt that at some point in time about our beginnings.
Yes.
Of something, of any endeavor. Yeah.
Truly. And I feel like if you can't get past that fear of being cringe, like this industry is not for you.
Yes.
Like you have to be able to push through those thoughts of like insecurity, that imposter syndrome, that, oh my gosh, Olivia's trying to become an influencer. Like people sending your video to each other to make fun of it. I don't even know if this was happening. This is literally just like the intrusive thoughts that are going on in your
I do think that's what we all struggle with when we start something new.
Totally. And I had to overpower those intrusive kind of negative thoughts with like really positive affirmations. And that was like that season of my life. I needed to like speak positivity into myself so much because it wasn't really being reinforced from the outside. Not that I had like Kyle was always so supportive. My family was super supportive. We had like really great friends who believed in creative endeavors, but that wasn't like all of our friends or all of the people that cared about me. So I felt like I needed to tell myself every day, like everything you want is on the other side of fear. That was a big one.
Yeah, that's good.
And gosh, so many things around like fear. Basically, I felt like if I could become a fearless person, then I was unstoppable. There was nothing I wasn't going to be able to do if I could just overcome fear. And you're never not going to have it. Like even now, I have fear about doing like speaking engagements or I don't know, new partnerships, new endeavors, a cookbook, you know, that type of stuff. There's fear and imposter syndrome, but I am just well equipped to not let it stop me now because it's such a practiced muscle.
Yes. And that's a muscle that you do have to train just like anything else.
Totally.
Because I do think that especially as women, we can strive so much for excellence from the beginning that I do think that we can have a tendency to just sideline ourselves before we even start because we're thinking about conversations that other people might be having or all the things that could go wrong. And it is really scary to start something new. And I think that's why it's a low barrier to entry in the sense of that it can be available to anybody, but it does take a lot of guts and it does take a lot of that muscle memory of your mindset, just like really getting right. And so congrats to you for getting over that hump and getting to where you are today. When you did quit your 9-to-5 at Pricewaterhouse, were you scared doing that? Or did you have to give yourself a pep talk before you went in?
I was so delulu at this time. I was just like, I'm going to quit. I'm going to become like a famous food content creator. We're going to crush it in real estate, flipping houses. I was just like ready for something new. Yep. And it was so clear to me that working at PwC was not going to be my future. So I was like, it's only going to get harder to quit. I'm only going to get higher up the ladder. I'm going to start making money that's really hard to walk away from. So let's just quit now. And everything else in our life is changing. We might as well change this. But yes, I had a case of the delulu. And that's another thing I feel like you need to have in this industry is this almost unrealistic belief in yourself that you're going to make it happen.
Yeah. Because otherwise, like, I do think it's smart sometimes to not have a backup plan. I obviously did because I went ahead and made sure that my income matched, but
that's probably what I would recommend.
Well, I was just trying to think like I probably could have been so much even further now if I probably could have collapsed time if I kind of burned the ships and like ripped the Band-Aid off. And so even when we were at a women's event at Soho House the other night, there was a girl saying that, you know, she thought that she could maybe quit her job and that she might have some opportunities even in her email at that point in time. And I was like, okay, well, once you save up this amount and do this, then you can quit your job. And Hannah next to us was like, I think you should just do it now. And I was like, oh yeah, I think you should too, actually.
You're like, you know what? Yeah, you should quit your job.
Yeah. So I do think there is this level of knowing yourself of which path is right for you. If you do think that you're going to stay comfortable in your job, but no, you want to leave, rip the Band-Aid off, burn the ships, go for it. If you do think that that lack of money would cause you enough stress that you might stop what you're doing and go back to your 9-to-5. And I think that's just an element of knowing yourself. And so I think that's where learning a little bit about your mindset and your decision making is so helpful and important to get your perspective and your insight on that. But yeah, because I just know I get that question a lot of times. And I thought it took me 6 months to match my income. And then it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I went back to go check my text messages and my emails and even like dated photos. I did my side hustle for an entire year before I quit my job.
That's amazing. So you were probably working crazy hours.
I was working 24/7, trying to create service offerings, trying to find clients. Podcasting was still so new back in 2018, 2019. At least to those of us that didn't start it back in like the 2010s. But that's where I was like, if I need to figure this out, I need to keep going. I need more clients. But I know that for me, safety is such a big thing. If we go back to the Enneagram, I think I'm a 5 with a 6 wing. Okay. And 6 is just really seek safety. And so, but I always look back and I think, I wonder what it would have happened if I had quit my job sooner to collapse that time.
Yeah.
And maybe it would have opened up more opportunities. And so I think there is something really important there too about saying no to certain things so you can say yes to the right things, which sounds like is what happened for you.
I'm curious if my quit style matches up with my Enneagram.
And you're a
4-wing 3.
I feel like 4s are so creative, but they can be moody. I don't experience you as moody. But we can ask Chelsea off screen.
Chelsea.
Do we experience Olivia as moody? No. Chelsea's like, I would like to keep my job.
I feel like emotional, maybe not moody though.
Okay, that's good.
I don't have like these big mood swings, but I am a little emo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 4s can definitely sit in their feelings for a really long time.
That's me.
Yep. And that's where I feel like they can make decisions off of that sometimes too.
Okay.
But 3s are very achievement oriented. So we can kind of go back to that. How did you feel initially after quitting your job and then doing content and then real estate flipping? How did you feel internally after that shift?
I didn't realize until I quit how much of my identity was tied up in having a successful job.
Yeah.
And going back to like middle school, high school, like I always wanted to be the top of my class. I always wanted the teachers to like me, like accolades from outside, coaches, teachers, adult figures. Like I just wanted everyone to like think I was doing the right thing, and I wanted to be a role model. I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to be the top of the class. And then when at PwC, it was very much like, oh, you're doing like, this is a societally approved job.
This makes sense.
This makes sense.
Keep achieving, Olivia.
Exactly. Like keep climbing that ladder. So when I quit and I was no longer attached to something successful that would give me identity, oh my gosh, that was a little bit of a crumbling of Olivia's season. I remember being really quiet during that season of life. And I didn't want to meet new people because the first question people ask you after what's your name in the US,
what do you do?
Yep. And when you don't really have something that you feel like proud of, I just didn't want to have those conversations. Yeah. And I didn't want to say, oh, I'm a content creator. And Kyle would always encourage me like, you're a content creator, like tell people that. And I'm like, but I have 2,000 followers. Like I can't tell people I'm a content creator. And I remember this just solidified this fear for me. I told someone I was a content creator and they were like, oh my gosh, do you have like hundreds of thousands of followers? And I was like,
I've got something.
I'm on my way. You just trust. Come back in a year.
Are they still in your life?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, it would be kind of funny to be like, hey, you asked me this question 2 years ago. Let me tell you now how many followers I do have.
It was like one of the first people we met in Austin. And yeah, it was a funny time. I didn't want to tell people what I did for work. And even though Kyle and I were doing real estate together, he was the agent. And because house flipping is a lot of like manual labor, we were hiring contractors too, but he was like the GC. Everyone associated the real estate business with Kyle. And it was kind of like, well, what does Olivia do? Even though like I'm there every day, I'm very much part of the process, part of the design, working hard. It was just like his thing. And then, oh, Olivia's just like home flipping through cookbooks and a lot of like undertones of you're wasting your education and, oh, well, maybe you can get a job at like my dentist's office, or maybe you can like people sending me job applications when I was like, I'm not working. Like this is so frustrating that there's such little belief or understanding of what I'm doing that you're like sending me job applications to something that makes no sense. Yeah.
And I think that's such an understated and under maybe expected experience when you do quit your job and start something new, especially when you're right. It is the first question that people ask is like, oh, what do you do for a living? And then if you don't have something that you feel proud of, it does make you just kind of crumble on the inside. Because I've gotten to know you over our weekly walks a lot, and quiet is the last word that I would use to describe you now in the best of ways. I mean, because like I feel like you take up your agency now and like you've made some big decisions along the way. And so it's interesting to look back at the difference of you felt quiet in that season, but now I experience you as very confident and very driven, not moody. And so I think that is something that is harder than people expect, because it does feel like there's just a part of your soul that kind of gets ripped out of you that maybe never needed a spot there in the first place. How did your faith play into that season of life for you at that point?
As my identity around being like a successful person was kind of crumbling, I realized like I'm putting so much of my self-worth into other people's perceptions of me, other people's opinions, and these like worldly achievements. So it was, I remember every year I kind of like pick a word for the year. This year was more of a phrase, but that year I picked a word and it was identity. It was just something that like kept coming at me. And that just brought me to my Bible. Like, what does God say about me? What does he say about my worth, who I am, what is beautiful and interesting about me? So that was honestly a really, really good and necessary season for me to feel like so low about these things that, you know, they don't matter long term. And I was putting my worth in something that is just like so temporal. So I actually am really grateful for such a low season in terms of that, because it let me build back my identity on things that do matter. And I think had I catapulted straight into social media success, I don't know if I would deal well with the hate that comes at you online.
That's such a good point.
Because I would still put so much of my identity in like, oh, what are people saying about me? What do they think about me? So I had to detach from that in order to have success in this career.
That's such a good point, because if you did have success right off the bat, you would have just taken your identity from one place to the next, and the growth internally wouldn't have come. So you went how many years creating content before you feel like things kind of started to pick up?
It was a year and a half before I had any sort of growth.
And how often were you posting?
In the beginning, I would say it was like 2 to 3 times a week. I think for the first year, it was 2 to 3 times a week. And then in January of 23 or in 22, I was like, okay, I should make this a serious, we're going to commit 20 hours a week to this. I'm fully dedicating my Instagram to professional, because at the time it was like a little bit personal, like, oh, we're going to post about this trip we took to Mexico. And then I would go back to posting cooking content. I was like, no, we're going to go full send on this. I'm going to only post cooking content. And then it was another 8 months, or no, another 6 months after that things finally like took off.
Yeah, because the reason I ask about how often you were posting is because even if somebody doesn't necessarily want to become a content creator, that's a lot of at-bats for 2 years to not see a large return on yet. And so I think also you making the decision to go 20 hours a week full on in that is something that I want people to take as part of your mindset, that and your decision making of, if you do want to make something that is a side hustle into something more, you do have to have that dedicated time. You do have to have those at-bats. It might feel cringe, like you said, but it is that consistency to keep showing up no matter what the person's at-bats look like. And that to me is something that I admire so much in you. There's a million other things that you could have done. You could have gone back to your job. You could have done a million other things, but you stayed the course and you kept going. And so that's the biggest thing that I think we can take from your mindset and from your decision making is go all in on it, make that decision to keep going for it, and then you kind of find your break, whether it's 1 year, 6 months, 3 years after that. So I would love to know what kind of broke for you after those 2 or 2.5 years of posting that kind of opened the floodgates.
That finally made the work feel worth it. Well, on the topic of the at-bats, I realized that what I really needed in this industry was reps. I knew that I had to get really good at editing, really good at fine-tuning my content, and really have a unique POV. That's something that I think sets people apart, and it's kind of hard to develop in the beginning because you're not really sure what's going to hit. You're trying all these different styles of content, and you don't even really know, like, okay, what do people want to see from me? Not just like my mom and like my friends and family, but what is my unique offering? And that was what kept getting refined the more reps I had. Not only was I getting better at editing content, but I was also realizing, okay, this is what I'm uniquely gifted at. This is what I can offer to people. And I will say that as soon as I narrowed in on this is the type of content I am giving people, they can know what to expect from me. It was about 2 months later that my content took off. And I had 3 recipes go viral around the same time.
Oh, what were they?
It was like, it's so random. This just goes to show you never know what the algorithm, you cannot predict it. So it was an avocado egg salad.
Sounds good.
Delicious, but just random.
Unexpected.
It was so easy. A corn salsa. Another thing that was like, okay, I don't really feel like this is
really random.
Right? It's like not super original. Like every summer people are posting a corn salsa. And the third recipe that went viral was a shrimp taco with the corn salsa. So again, just like not things I expected to go viral.
Sure.
Delicious things, but just like simple. And that has really become my content offering too.
Okay.
It's like simple, healthy recipes that you're going to one grocery store to get the ingredients for. Like we're making these accessible ingredients.
That's so helpful.
I don't know why. I think in the beginning of like the health food content creator, the big health food movement, it was like very much the Erewhon style and like Goop Kitchen, where you're getting all these super foods and it's like you're going to these specialty stores in order to really be healthy. And I was like, there's gotta be an easier way to be healthy.
Yeah.
Like, let's just eat recipes centered around whole foods that you can, not the market, but like whole unprocessed foods.
Yeah.
But also whole foods. We love whole foods.
Yeah. Got a good cheese selection.
They do have a good cheese
I
selection.
like it better than Trader Joe's. I know that's a hot take, but I like the Whole Foods cheese better.
Fighting words.
Yeah.
I also like that
Special
Whole
cheese
Foods, this is so like random. They have the little cheese ends. There's like a basket of the pieces of cheese that they have cut off of other pieces of cheese.
Oh, I did not know about this.
So it's like little ends and pieces. I wonder if the one here doesn't have it.
Okay.
Since I'm no longer a dairy girl, I don't have a good pulse on the cheese selection.
Okay. I didn't know about this. I'll have to keep you updated.
Yes, please do.
I love it. I did ask Olivia the other week. I totally forgot she doesn't do dairy, but I was like, oh, I'm getting this like monthly cheese subscription thing. You want to come over for a cheese and wine night? And she was like, I'll come. I won't be partaking in the cheese, but I'll be coming.
But like, also, that sounds great. Like, I'll be there.
So these 3 kind of random recipes take off, and then you realize, okay, I want to be able to provide to people more simple ingredients, more simple, just one grocery store stop. And then did your storytelling change around your content too that you were posting?
One thing that I will say about that period is that because I had a backlog of all of this content that was value first, like I'm going to provide people with value first, recipe in the caption, this is how you make the recipe. I think the reason that those viral moments converted into a community is because people saw, oh, this isn't just a one-off. Like she has a whole backlog of these simple, healthy recipes.
Yeah.
So when they come to my page, because you can see a lot of videos will go viral, but maybe it's like not your typical content offering. And you really want something within your content offering to go viral, because then that's what people expect of you.
That's a great point.
So all of those videos that before didn't go viral, I didn't have a lot of followers, they were the foundation of why I ended up gaining a community. People come to my page, they see all these videos, and they're like, okay, I'm going to follow this girl. And I think that was when I really gave myself permission to make it full time.
Okay.
Because I grew from 4,000 to 100,000 followers over the course of like a little over a month.
That's wild.
That was a wild time. I was like, because I remember celebrating the 10K, because that was like back in the day, that's when you got the swipe up.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Swipe up. I forgot.
Such a big deal.
That's a game changer for businesses back
Totally.
then.
I was like, oh, now I can do story partnerships with brands. So yay, we went to Clark's Oyster Bar. We celebrated 10K.
The best place to celebrate. If you guys are ever in Austin, go to Clark's Oyster Bar for sure.
And you want to have like a little like it's kind of a boozy lunch.
Yeah.
Like you can't not get the champagne.
Oh, I've never had their champagne. They do have pretty good cocktails too.
Their cocktails are fabulous.
Okay.
But like some oysters, a little cocktail.
Yes.
It's such a fun way to celebrate. So we went to Clark's, we celebrate, and then like a couple weeks later, we're like, oh my gosh, we're still celebrating 100K. Like, this is so wild. And I started having all of these managers reaching out like, oh, you need management now, so you should sign up with us. And it was a little bit overwhelming. And like a lot of brands, I suddenly hit their radar and they were, offering me deals. And I was like, I don't even know how to price myself at because obviously this is going to be a new rate, but like, what the heck is that? It's not like I slowly ramped up to this. It felt very overwhelming. And I didn't want to get myself signed up under anything that, I don't know, I was very, very thoughtful about it. So I didn't take any brand deals. And I had a few calls with management, but nothing felt right. It felt very salesy, like, and this is why you need me. Like, oh, you're probably not smart enough to know like how to navigate this industry. Like, this is why you need management, or else you're going to get taken advantage of. And I'm like, I'm feeling taken advantage of right now. Like, this is what's
already happening.
Yes. Like, thank you for the preview. So I said, okay, I'm going to self-manage, and I'm just not going to take brand deals for a bit. I'm going to let myself ease into this new audience. I have now all like, when 95% of your audience is brand new, seemingly overnight, you're like, okay, what do they expect from me? I need to train them to know what to expect. I don't want them to be like, oh my gosh, brand deal every 2 story frames. Like, that's so crazy. Which is something that I could have capitalized on at that time had I had a focus just on making money, which is like never going to get you very far in this industry. So yeah, in that mindset, I was like, okay, let's just provide people with so much value and really teach them who I am, what my character is, and help people create simple, healthy recipes. Like, that's the mission.
So you went 2 years with like 2,000 followers.
Yeah.
And then in a month, you went from like 2,000 or 3,000 to 10,000?
It was like a little over a month, from 4,000 to 100,000.
To 100,000.
It was a whole new
celebrated
league.
10K, but then we went to 100K real fast.
And then it was like, yeah.
And I do think that's also a testament to you had a backlog of content. So when something did pop off, it wasn't as if it was your first piece of content.
Right.
People had some stuff to binge. So that stuff still wasn't wasted. Those 2 years were still so helpful, beneficial. I always say you have to create it before you can perfect it. We're not going to get it perfect right out of the gate, no matter how much we will will that to happen. I mean, even just today, like the camera's turned off. The audio looks good, so that's what counts. But it's those things that it's like, it's if you keep at it, these things are not for waste, even when you don't really see what the end goal is going to be quite yet. And so that's amazing growth. You have incredible recipes. I would love to know, growing up, was there somebody that was really influential in your life that helped you just cultivate this love of recipes and cooking and recipe creation?
My favorite memories growing up are cooking in the kitchen with my mom.
Oh, I love.
Like, she is a really good home cook. And for her, it was like a lot about just the necessity of how do I feed 4 kids and a husband on like,
that's a lot.
It's a lot on a very small budget. So like, we weren't able to eat out. We ate out once a week. And she was in the kitchen every night cooking us dinner. And I just loved being her little sous chef. And I look back and I'm like, I probably wasn't even helpful. I probably came in for like...
That's a good mom, because I'm sure it took her twice as long to do it that way.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure. But I remember like dropping the eggs on the ground and spilling things. But yeah, she just was so present with me in the kitchen and just made it really fun for us. And one of our little Saturday activities would be to flip through a cookbook. I could pick whatever recipe I wanted.
Okay.
And then we would go to the grocery store and make a whole day out of like making that recipe. And she had cookbooks that were like from her grandma and like from her childhood that we would cook from. So it really just, it was so wholesome. I look so forward to doing that with children someday. So excited for that season of life to come, but not pregnant, just throwing it out there.
not yet.
Not yet. But yeah, so she really cultivated my love of cooking from a very young age. And she's still like my favorite person to cook with when we go back home for like holidays and whatnot. So
do you guys have one recipe or holiday dish that you guys do every Christmas or every Thanksgiving?
Oh my gosh, I feel like we've been so I think we make the same things every Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Great. Is it the corn salsa?
Oh my gosh, can you imagine? I'm like, today we're making the viral corn salsa.
My 3 viral recipes is what everybody's getting for Christmas.
You guys are getting avocado egg salad, so
eat up.
My mom is really known for her desserts. She's like a really good dessert maker. A woman
after my own heart.
Oh my gosh, like incredible baker. She is definitely a better baker than me. I feel like I'm still like fine tuning that art.
Okay.
Her apple pie is so exceptional. And I'm actually going home this weekend.
Am I getting in your suitcase now?
I know. Just come with me. Come along for the ride.
I could use some good homemade apple pie.
Get
me in the mood for fall. Sure.
I know. I so associate like all of those fun childhood recipes with the fall.
Yes.
So when I think about like my favorite things, it's always like fall time. She did have a really good Swedish pancake recipe too.
A Swedish pancake?
Yeah, it's kind of like a really thick crepe.
Oh, a pancake.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why I was thinking a cake in a pan that was Swedish.
Oh.
But I'm following now. Like a pancake that you eat for breakfast. Nobody else thought that. This is my brain. So a Swedish
I
pancake.
like the idea of this pancake though. It sounds great.
It's coming soon from Olivia.
Yeah, you might see it on a
So
feed
what
near
makes
you.
a Swedish pancake?
I think it's a little bit like sweeter than a crepe. This is not a health food.
Okay.
This is like, it's very eggy. It's a really thin, flat pancake, and we put like a lot of powdered sugar on it. Sometimes you fill them, sometimes you don't. But she would make Swedish pancakes, her and my dad, like almost every Saturday morning. That was a little treat. Oh gosh, I loved those Swedish pancakes.
Gosh, that sounds good. My mom is not a big cook. Sorry, Mom, if you're listening.
Exposed.
She just doesn't like it. Like, she's not a big foodie. She likes a burger and a pizza. She doesn't have that wide of a palate. But growing up, we always had the same thing. So Mondays were spaghetti. Tuesdays, I think, were chicken and rice. Wednesdays, was it chicken Devon that we ate a lot? Ooh. We did eat cereal a lot too. She's probably thinking you're not remembering well, but I don't know, we had cereal for dinner.
She's like, I did not feed you cereal.
A lot of Cocoa Puffs in my house. And then Friday we would usually get pizza, but cooking was just not really her thing. Mm-hmm. And so when I had more health problems than the rest of my family, it was 2015 was when I started to really be much more health conscious about what I was cooking and what I was eating. And that was so laborious back then because I was gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free. And that started in 2011, actually, and there was nothing gluten-free back then. And so that was just such a bummer. So then I just associated cooking with something I had to do just to maintain some level of health that other people could just have kind of naturally. But I will say now in this season of life, it is something that I can remain so focused in. I'm not distracted. My phone it's up because I'm watching Olivia on Instagram, rewatching the reel 100 times. If you ever have something pop off, it will be because I just keep rewatching it to make sure that I get the recipe right. But it is something that I've fallen more in love with now that it's not out of a dire need to be healthy. And I just kind of understand some stuff more now. Mm-hmm. So while I can follow a recipe, there's no way I could create one. How in the world do you create a recipe, and how did you figure out that you had a talent for it in the first place?
I think because I was always the kid that you needed to eat like a little healthier. Okay. And going back to like, there weren't gluten-free, dairy-free alternatives to like, I guess, normal food. You're kind of getting creative with whatever you have on hand, like back when I was first learning how to cook for myself. So that creative bone, it just really came out with recipes. And that was probably like in college, I would say. I'm cooking for myself. I'm realizing that dairy is really inflammatory for my skin, that gluten doesn't make me feel good, that seed oils give me a raging stomach ache and deep cystic acne. Like all of these things are kind of causing inflammation in my body and I have to eliminate them. So how do I do that and still really find a lot of enjoyment in food? And that's when all right, let's just like try new things. Let's get creative in the kitchen. And I think it is just so, it's a part of my gifting. Like that's how my creativity shows up. And B, I loved it. It was so interesting to me. So the creativity definitely comes from like necessity of like, oh gosh, I have to feed myself and like healthy food that actually tastes good. And at the time, I just didn't feel like there were a lot of options for that.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking I can follow yours because they are really simple and easy to follow. But there's things I was like, oh, I wouldn't know that this needs to use this to thicken this or to kind of make the sauce this way. And I guess that just kind of comes with taste and experience and
totally,
like you said, necessity. So it's kind of the perfect formula of all three of those.
We had a lighting tech come over like last week to look at my lighting for my videos, and he's using all of these terms and he's like, oh, well, if this is up, then you need to turn that down. And I was thinking, this is so similar to how my mind works with a recipe.
Oh, that's a great example.
Oh, this has too much vinegar in it, or we need to like up or down the salt or whatever it is. Like he was speaking the way that my brain thinks about food. So I think it's just also how I'm wired.
Yeah. Well, everybody go check out her Instagram because you will have so many recipes to binge. I've done the chuck roast.
Oh, amazing.
That's the easiest by far.
That's so easy.
Did I do your linguine? Is that one that you have?
It was around Valentine's Day, right?
Yes.
Did you do
Piccata.
the chicken piccata? And
Yes.
did you do the Alfredo? The fettuccine Alfredo?
Maybe I also did the Alfredo.
And the mushroom chicken.
And the mushroom chicken.
Yes.
I went on an Olivia kick. I need to get back into it now that I'm not going to be traveling for like a month. But what I do love, it's usually one pan.
Mm-hmm.
There's not going to be like all that extra seed oil stuff in there too. But honestly, the one pan is what gets me every time.
Oh my gosh, it's such a seller.
Yeah.
I know that I don't want to do a bunch of dishes. If I can eliminate a pan or eliminate an ingredient that's hard to find or just somehow cut a corner, which is not how I operate in my normal life, but I am such a corner cutter when it comes to cooking. I'm like, I just want to make this as simple as possible and make it delicious.
You're doing the Lord's work for all of us that are not cooks in the kitchen. I would love to do, before we wrap up, a quick Olivia segment.
Oh, yes.
So what are 3 things that are always going to be in Olivia's purse?
I'll tell you what is not in my purse ever.
Okay, great.
A wallet and an ID.
Okay.
Like, you best believe I am showing up with no wallet, no
Olivia's
ID.
not paying. If you do have to dinner with her, she will order. She's not paying.
Literally everywhere I go, I think, oh shoot, I hope they take Apple Pay, because I always have my phone.
Yes.
I won't do that one though. That one's too easy. But yeah, just know, like, if you're going out to dinner with me, I'm going to be telling you, I'm hitting you with a Venmo. Like, sorry.
It's very Gen Z of you, I feel like. So that kind of makes you relevant.
I'm feeling very relevant right now.
Good.
The 3 things I always do have in my purse. I'm a big lip gloss girl.
Okay.
I have way too many lip products. I love trying everything that comes out. I just love lip gloss. I blame this on my sister because she has like these beautiful, naturally like voluptuous lips, and she always wore lip gloss.
Okay. Do you have a fave right now?
The Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lips in Cherry Blossom.
Is that the one with the extra sparkle in it?
This one is not shimmery. This one's like more like it's glossy, but not glittery.
Oh, I love that. That's a good combo.
Yeah. So that is my favorite.
Okay.
I probably have 3 tubes of that like lying in different purses.
Okay. So no wallet, but yes to lip gloss.
Yes to lip gloss. I should take a picture of like my purses that I have upstairs, but they're a lip product, a salt tin.
Okay.
I am such a snob about salt, and I hate the table salt that they give you at restaurants.
What kind of salt do we have in our salt tin?
It's Jacobsen is the brand.
Okay.
It's kosher sea salt. I order it off of Amazon.
Okay, easy.
It's so good.
And it's like a little tin, almost like for toothpicks or something, but salt?
It's like, yeah, it's literally just this tiny little metal tin, and I also get those off of Amazon. And it's funny, I did this meet and greet for an ice cream collab, and as part of like the goodie bag, I gave everyone a salt tin.
Oh, so this is an identity thing.
This is like, it's become totally part of my personality.
We love it.
So the salt tin. And then I am very like old fashioned in that I like to have a physical journal, and I like to write things down.
Okay.
So I always have my favorite pen.
Okay.
I have like a billion of these pens scattered around the house.
Pens matter.
The type of pen matters. Like, my handwriting looks good with this pen.
Because I write a lot of handwritten notes. So like if I find a good one at a restaurant, I'm snagging that sucker.
You're like, that's my pen now.
If my pen just gave you a really nice, well-written tip, I'm taking it with me because I'll never write that number that well ever again.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Okay.
So yeah, you're a pen girl too. Yeah, those are my things.
So second question, everybody's, I'm sure, asking you all the time about your hair. What's your hair care routine? We got to know. My hair is very fake today, and it still does not look as good as Olivia's.
It is her like fake hair, exceptional.
Thanks.
I would literally never know that these were extensions.
Okay, they're very heavy. So I know
you're like, I
the whole
feel
time. Yes.
Thank
you.
I am knowing
glad.
it. They look so good.
Thank
I'm like,
you.
do I need them? I love them.
Your hair is like literally perfect. I wouldn't do that.
Like maybe a little body. I don't know. Okay, the hair care routine. This is one of my most common questions. I think priority number 1, diet, because my hair has gone through a lot of fluctuations with like being a lot thinner, being a lot more dull, a lot more dry, and I think diet, eating a lot of protein, eating whole foods, like healthy fats, collagen rich broths, like that has made my hair
That's huge.
Like stronger, longer, thicker. And then I'm so particular about hair products. I get sent a lot of products from brands, and I'm like, okay, I will try this, but I am not going to, it's going to take a lot for me to deviate truly from my hair care routine. And there's a reason I've never done a hair partnership, because I'm like, until a brand comes along that's like truly knocking my socks off in the way that like my normal routine does, I'm not switching.
No.
I'm not talking about it. I'm like,
good for you.
Yeah.
Because that is something that you want to keep trust. Like you want to keep
Totally.
trust with your people.
Totally.
And your hair is just like so iconic that I can see that people are going to be asking about that a lot. You want to keep that sacred. So your diet, your products.
And then like we can get nitty gritty. Wash schedule. I only wash like every 4, sometimes 5 days.
Okay.
That helps keep my hair a lot shinier. And this is like kind of gross, but
I'm here for it.
I let my hair get greasy.
Okay, that was
like
me yesterday.
It
was bad.
That was me yesterday too.
Okay. I have to line it up with recording days.
Exactly.
I'm not washing 2 days in a row.
No way. I had to have fresh hair for the pot.
Well, it looks perfect, quite literally. But
I let it get
just wash
greasy
every 4 to 5 days.
Every 45 days. It sounded like I said
45.
425.
Yes.
And I use a boar bristle brush that like distributes the oil from the root to the end. So like I let it get a little greasy. I distribute that oil to the ends. We do a hat day, and that helps with shine. I'm trying to think what other juicy little.
And you put something on Insta recently, right? About your hair stuff?
I did. I did like a full hair routine breakdown on my Instagram.
We'll put that in the show notes because I'm sure people are going to know about your products.
Oh yeah.
The wash schedule is important. Do you use Milbon for your
I
wash?
alternate between that and Davinas.
Okay. That's great. I use Milbon, at least right now. It helps because my hair is kind of thin. Well, I should say fine. I have a lot of fine hair.
Same.
Okay. And that's been really helpful.
Does yours get greasy pretty quickly?
So quickly.
Okay, we have like the same hair type.
And the Austin water is not helping my case.
I hear that a lot.
It's kind of bad. So right now I do have a filter on my shower, but I think I need more of a softener.
Okay.
Everybody watching that knows me from Nashville knows I also had a conspiracy theory about the water in Nashville, and now it has just transferred over to Austin. But when I just went home to Virginia,
conspiracy keeps going.
It can't be my hair.
It's a traveling conspiracy.
Yeah, it's not my hair. It's just the water anywhere that I live. But when I go home to Virginia, like it's a completely different ballgame. Like my hair is
interesting.
Thick. I even feel like I have regrowth in the front, and so yeah, water filters are very much my friend. But I'll be sure to link everything that you put on your Instagram for your hair because I do think as the girlies want to know, we can direct them there.
I love it.
And then the last Olivia segment question, tell us about the matcha. What's your secret to making amazing matcha?
Okay. I became a matcha girly last summer and it's like part of my identity now.
Okay.
I feel like people associate me with like my
hair
roast
matcha.
Recipe, my hair, and my matcha.
These are great things to be
These are my big 3. And now the fact that I don't pay for dinner. Okay. So I think there are like 3 aspects to the matcha that really just make it a chef's kiss.
Okay.
First, you have to start with a high quality matcha.
Okay.
And I have like a few favorites. I'll just, I'm going to link them in my Amazon store.
Okay.
And that'll be the easiest way or else I'm just rattling off random brands that no one's going to take note of. Okay. So high quality matcha. And then the cashew milk. Cashew milk. So I make a creamy vanilla cashew milk. And it's hard for me to even order a matcha out now because I love that cashew milk in the matcha so much. Wow. It like makes such a difference. I make Chelsea a cashew milk matcha every afternoon. That's like a little routine that we have. And when I go out of town, she's like, I don't even drink matcha when you're not in town because I don't have you making the cashew milk matcha latte, so it's just not going to hit the same.
And then do you have a recipe for your cashew milk too?
I do.
Okay.
We're going to have to put that one in the show notes because that's probably, it's not like going to be a viral recipe, no one's like, oh my gosh, cashew milk, how, groundbreaking. But it's one of my most popular, like most commonly made. People make it every week. It's become like part of their identity too.
I love that.
So that one is a good one.
And they probably think of you every time that they're making their cashew milk and put it in the matcha.
Like I get tagged in people's like weekly batch of cashew milk and I'm like, oh, this just warms my heart so much because I'm obsessed with that recipe. So the type of matcha, the cashew milk, and then a lot of people have a hard time with matcha in the beginning because it's fairly earthy. So making it a little palatable. I love a little bit of Manuka honey.
Okay.
So good. And I just whisk that right in with the matcha.
Okay.
So good.
I don't think I've ever actually ordered a matcha before anywhere.
Ooh.
I've had a sip of somebody's along the way, but I gave up coffee about 2 months ago. I think I've had maybe 2 cups since then, like on vacation, but I don't even crave coffee anymore.
Oh, wow.
So I've been doing peppermint tea.
Good for you.
But maybe I can do matcha now.
Yeah, we should have, I should have you over I'll make you a matcha.
I'm going to be ruined for any other matcha
I know,
ever.
that's the problem.
But, you know, I can be spoiled every once in a while. If it's going to be matcha, I might as well go big.
I do have a tip for our Austin girlies.
Oh.
If they want a really good matcha, and they want, I mean, it's really the milk. Oh, the milk that sets it apart. Alchemy Juice makes their own house-made nut milk.
Where is that?
That is, do you know where Casa de Luz is?
Mm-mm.
It's on, gosh, I'm like blanking on, it's kind of Zilker area.
Okay, so kind of like Central Austin, kind of close to downtown.
Totally. Like you can walk there from downtown.
Okay.
They have a really good matcha latte. Love it.
And
it's just this cute little juice. Like it's a tiny little, almost like a walk-up counter. It's so cute.
And what was the name of it again?
Alchemy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the Austin girlies.
Mm-hmm.
Olivia, thank you so much for being on. And the one question I'm asking all of my guests this season is, you talked a little bit earlier about how your mom was really influential in your craft and love of cooking and gathering. Are there any funny or quirky or heartfelt sayings that she used to say to you guys all the time growing up?
One that comes to mind is after I tore my ACL when I was in high school, my sister, actually, my mom stole this from my sister. She has kept it alive. My sister was like writing me these letters and drawing me pictures as I was recovering on the couch from my ACL surgery. And one of the letters said, "We gonna has good days." It was so cute because I was just sobbing every day.
Yes.
And she saw that pain and that sorrow and like the hopelessness that I was feeling. And she said, "We gonna has good days." Mm-hmm. And so my mom has kept that alive. And she says, you know, anytime you're like going through something challenging or you're in a season that's like not maybe feeling so hopeful, we gonna has good days. And it keeps up that hope, that reality that like, no, there are good things in store for us. We probably haven't even lived our best days. Like there's so much to look forward to.
Yeah, there are better days ahead. You can always return to the good days. We have good days.
We gonna has good days.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That is so sweet. We talked a lot about your recipes, but where can everybody find you? Where can they follow along to find these recipes? So my Instagram handle is at olivia.adriance. And then my blog, which recently got redone. So please go look at the blog. It's just oliviaadriance.com. And then, pretty much just at Olivia Adriance on every platform. Get on her email list because you send out amazing, is it weekly or monthly emails?
It's monthly.
Okay, amazing monthly emails.
I do a fun little like nitty gritty every month. I feel like people don't expect it from me, but I really do some behind the scenes. So the newsletter list it's fun. Yes, get on the newsletter list. And then you have an amazing ebook of recipes that is available on your website as well. It is on my website. Follow her on Insta and then get on that email list because it really is just such a delight to see your name pop up once a month. But Olivia, thank you so much for being on. I love you, friend. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.